smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some disease. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome guys. Miss Liz in the house, and that's right, I have a returning guest of 5 times. That's right, it's going to be his 5th time on Tea Time, so I guess he kind of likes what Miss Liz serves at the table. We're going to be serving his tea today, and his tea is teaching edible, I'm not saying that right, authenticity. I will get Jeff to say it. I didn't say the second word right. I will get him to say it. My tongue just is twisting all in different ways lately. If some of you've noticed, Miss Liz is having a little bit of speech problems because my conversion has flare up. So some words I can't pronounce and I can't. So just take into account that Miss Liz will get her guests to say those words that I can't say. Before we get started, we're going to get everybody over to Miss Liz's YouTube channel, Spotify, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, all of those platforms. You know where they are. Give it a quick subscribe, follow, and share these tea times out because they all do make a difference, one cup of tea at a time. So let's get started with disclaimer and then an intro, and then let's get Jeff in here, and we're going to serve that tea, and he's going to tell me what that second word is because I can't say it. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live shows. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicated to sharing real-life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I'm Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own judgment when considering any action or decisions that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may include and cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutic advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussions, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email, bookymissliz@gmail.com, or visit the link tree Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect that decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Now let me give you a little bit on Jeff. So today I am beyond thrilled to welcome back a familiar face and a friend of Tea Time's table, Jeff Rasley, joining us for his 5th visit. Jeff has become a true part of Miss Liz's community through his thoughtful storytelling, deep reflections, and passion for humanity. Each time Jeff returns, he pours something new into our cups, a little more wisdom, a little more truth, and a lot more heart. So grab your tea, settle in, and join us as we revisit old lessons and uncover new insights with someone who truly walks the path of purpose and present. This afternoon, we'll travel through mountains, memories, and meaning with Jeff, humanitarian author and global explorer. From the Himalayas to humanitarian efforts across the world, Jeff has shown the adventure isn't only about where your feet take you, it's about where your heart leads you. His life is a lesson in service, compassion, courage, proof that we can all climb higher when we lift others along the way. Let me get Jeff in here and let's spill some tea together. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you, Liz. So good to be back with you again.
Well, it is nice to have you back. I think you are my running guest. I think it's between you and Lugman. I think Lugman was on here 5 times too. So it's always nice to see familiar faces.
Well, I'll have to do number 6 so I can move into first place.
Right? Ah, this is how it works, guys, all my listeners out there. When my guests just like coming back for more tea. So, Jeff, I couldn't pronounce that second word. What is that second word that you gave me for your tea?
Equitable?
Equitable? I've never heard that word before. So let's get into the tea right away. Let's get that teaching, equitable authenticity out there right away. Let's get that tea flowing. Oh, did I lose you, Jeff?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, you went quiet. I was just like, oh no,
Yeah,
not again.
we were just engaging in a brief bit of meditation.
Oh, I like that. Taking a pause. Time for reflection.
So, were you asking me to comment on the teaching equitable authenticity?
Yeah, let's get that tea out there right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my fault. Well, and then, I saw that you're spelling T with the T-E-E. And so then I thought, well, maybe it should be teaching equitable enlightenment.
Ooh.
Um, but I threw out equitable when we corresponded, which seems like it was months ago, um, just because in law, equity means seeking fairness. And
Oh,
so I think, that's something that should be important to all of us. And in these fraught political times, fairness seems like something that is being lost. That in both of our countries, with the extreme partisanship, uh, you know, fairness used to be something that we really valued, that most everybody valued, and it doesn't seem like that so much anymore. At least not by the people with loud voices in, in Washington D.C. or Ottawa. So I'd like to hold up a banner for the value of fairness.
and it's so true, Jeff, because our two countries, but I think it's worldwide, right? The leaders, all the leaders, they're shouting, but they're not leading. There's a big difference.
Yeah, well, there's definitely fairly recently a movement towards authoritarianism in a number of different countries, and what authoritarian brings with it is the big guy, the leader, the Führer, the great man, however you want to describe it, gets to shout, talk in a very loud voice, and anybody who challenges him is suspect and at risk. And it's a very dangerous movement that seems to be happening. And I hate to say this, but for those who studied history, it more and more looks like the 1930s, and we know where that led.
A 1930s repeat.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like we're repeating history. We're not learning from history, right? Because we're not really studying history. We're just trying to put it under the covers and try to repeat it, but in a new blanket kind of way.
Yeah, one thing I will say though that gives me more hope than I thought I would have about this next generation is there's been now these Gen Z revolutions that have taken place. The kind of my second home, Nepal. There was a Gen Z revolution that overthrew the government. The prime minister was replaced by a woman who's highly respected, and was approved of by these young leaders that led this revolt. And I've just read about there's a Gen Z and revolution is probably too strong of a term, although these young leaders are using it. But in Morocco, that a lot of young people are protesting and confronting the government about real inequity in that country. There's also been some of that movement in Turkey and other countries. So, that actually, and in the US, the No Kings protest day that's coming up this Saturday is led mostly by young people. I happen to know the young guy is a friend of mine who's organized the protest in my hometown here, Indianapolis. And so I see, a lot of energy coming from young people right now. And I hope they keep it up. And I hope that what it leads to is, going back to my banner word of equity to more fairness, because that's what people need from their government. They need to be treated decently and fairly.
I want to talk about the word authenticity with you, Jeff, because you've given me that word a few times. I went back and checked out all our tea times, and I was just like, oh, the authenticity is there all the time. So why that word all the time, Jeff?
Okay, well, that's not fair.
We were just talking about fairness, and then I just put you on the spot about authenticity, right?
Yeah,
Because
you
I
did
think
your
a lot of
homework
people
and
don't
I didn't.
understand, right? I think, Jeff, the reason is I don't think a lot of people understand the word authenticity. They use it, but they don't understand it.
Yeah. Well, the first time I really encountered it in a significant way was in college, and I was studying existential philosophy, and authenticity was a term that a lot of the existential philosophers like Sartre, Camus, uh, anyway, others used Christian existentialists like Paul Tillich, Reinhold Niebuhr, H. Richard Niebuhr, and people like that. And what they were really, the point they were trying to make is that each of us has an authentic self, but it's something that many of us never achieve. And it's a lifelong pursuit, really finding out who you are and creating who you are, which is kind of a combination, the environment and our genetic makeup in some sense is telling us who we are, but at the same time, we're able with our own free will to create who we are. And so that, the existentialists said that there's a lifelong project of becoming an authentic self. And so that, anyway, that's where I discovered it. And, each individual could apply it to themselves and have it mean in terms of who they are, uniquely that individual, but sort of on a more universal global level. It means that it means being who you really are, as opposed to being fake, as opposed to being what the environment, what the government, what authorities tell you should be.
And I think that's what I really like about our conversations is, the real and rawness of it. And like you called me out, you was like, that's not fair. We were just talking about fairness, having that open conversation about words, because there's so many words that are being used in today's society and in programs and services that they have no idea what the words mean. They're just using them because they're big fancy words, right? Um, and I like to sit back and I like to reflect a lot. I've been reflecting a lot this year, Jeff. And your book, this book, Wisdom, having that book has brought me through some really hard times and understanding the philosophy of life and words and how we use them. And all of your books, I've noticed that you kind of give like little messages and little stories along the way. like your travel, like your wife told you to take a hike, and you went into the mountains, and we're going to talk about those mountains and that as well. But I really want to talk about this book. But you sent me another book that you just came out with, the Presbyterian versus Methodologist, Methodist, right? Group Youth group rumbles in Pokagon. Now, is that a country, Pokagon?
No, it's actually the name Pokagon is how we
Oh,
pronounce it
Pokagon.
here in Indiana. Pokagon is an Indian, a Native American tribe. And so it was a tribe of the Potawatomi Nation. And so right now there's a Michigan Pokagon tribe that's been recognized by the government, and an Indiana Pokagon tribe that fought for decades and decades to get recognized by the government, and finally was. I think it was just last year, within the last couple of years, that they finally received recognition. But anyway, so there's a state park in Indiana called Pokagon State Park, and the setting of the book is in Pokagon State Park.
And is that where you've been traveling? Because I follow you all over the place. Like you take me like on a travel with all of your journeys through your pictures and history and storytelling. And I think that's what I really like about your books as well, Jeff, is that they take you on a travel. Like, it's kind of like us all taking a hitchhike and going into the mountains. Like you take us onto a travel through your storytelling.
Yeah, well, that one book I wrote that was based on my experience of being 18 years old and hitchhiking across the country, and just the amazing adventures I had doing that, and the remarkable people I met doing that was my first big adventure. And it just sort of, lit a fire. And I suppose that became part of my discovery of my authentic self, was that I love to travel and meet different people, experience different cultures, hear different languages and accents. And so it's enriched my life tremendously. And so I hope to continue doing it.
Well, you've been busy because the last time I did my research on you, you only had 14 books. Now you have 18 books out there. So you've been busy writing.
Is it 18? I was thinking
It's
it was,
18. I counted them
oh,
all. I was just like,
oh
holy
wow.
cow, he's been a busy boy.
Okay, I was thinking it was only 17, but
Yeah, I
you
got
did your
18.
homework. You did your
On
homework, and I
Amazon.
didn't
On
do
your
that.
Amazon, I got 18 books.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess they're all there. So if it's 18, it's 18.
Yeah, you've been busy. So which one was the hardest one to write, Jeff?
Oh, the hardest one was definitely the first one, which was bringing progress to paradise, what I got from giving to a mountain village in Nepal. It was the hardest to write because I'd never written a book before. I'd written a fair number of articles. I had quite a few articles published before the first book, and I was lucky. I had a really great editor to work with through the publisher. And one, one of the interesting things she kept asking me, because when I queried her publisher about the book, I only had 3 chapters fully written. And so I was sending her, each chapter that followed. And she would ask me, okay, so now what is your theme? Tell me what your theme is in one sentence. And then tell me each chapter, how does this chapter relate to your theme? So, like, she was really trying to keep me on track. And that's something that stuck with me. And I wouldn't say that every single book I could tell you there is one theme to it. There might be more than one, but it's definitely, makes me think about, okay, so what am I trying to say? Can I say in one sentence, what is the real point of this book? And so I do try to think through that with each book.
I like that. The one sentence theme. Like, get the writers out there thinking, what is your one sentence? What is your theme? Uh, was that hard to put out there, Jeff? That one sentence?
Well, sometimes it was because as I'm writing it, I don't really. There's been several books that I didn't really know what the end was, and so I didn't know what the conclusion was until I got there. And then after I had my first draft on some of those books, I knew what my theme was, and I could probably say it in one sentence. Um, but and then in some others, I knew from the very beginning what the theme was, and that's what I wanted to write about. I mean, it wasn't just a story kind of developing on its own. It was, yeah, this is something I have to say. But so it's been, there's been those kind of two different approaches.
Well, Jeff, we got a couple questions that came in, and I want to get those out to you today. The first question that came in is, what legacy do you hope to leave through your writing and service?
Hmm. Well, in terms of writing, what I really hope is that people will enjoy the stories and that they will come away from the story with a bit more wisdom. Uh, that a story is enjoyable, it should be entertaining, but I also hope that through my writing that you learn something. It's a good story, I hope, but I hope you also learn something.
And the next question I have for you is, your journey began with hitchhiking across the US. What did that adventure teach you about people and humanity?
Yeah, well, some good and some bad things. It taught me
The
there are
pros and
definitely,
cons, right?
yeah, it taught me that you can't say everybody is basically good because there are definitely some bad, scary people out there. But it also taught me that uh, s- people will surprise you with how kind and generous they can be. I mean, to stop and pick up a hitchhiker, why would anybody do that? You don't have to do that. I mean, it's just to do that is a really kind and generous thing to do. So, I kept experiencing that over and over. And what was really interesting about that is the people that picked me up generally fell into one of two categories. Either one, they were young, and back then they were kind of hippies, so they were young and sort of wild
I
and
remember a
crazy.
story now as you're sharing this, Jeff. I think it's in season 4 that you shared this about the hitchhiker, like when you were hitchhiking. But carry on, because I want people to go back and check Jeff's all of his tea times. He's been on season 3, 4, 5, and now 6, and season 2, I believe. Yeah, it's your 5th time here. So
Number 5. But so the other category is people uh, were not well off. Most of the people who picked me up were rather poor. Now there were two exceptions to that. One was a guy picked me up in a Ferrari, who said he was living his life like Jesus told him to. So, and he was a very unique guy. And the other was actually a very well off black guy down in Alabama. And that was kind of an amazing experience because, back in the early 70s, because this was in 1972, um, that I mean, the races were sort of scared of each other, and that this middle-aged black guy would pick up this young, long-haired white guy in Alabama, one of the most, segregated states in the U.S. And he was in a Cadillac. So I got a ride in a Cadillac and I got a ride in a Ferrari. Most of the rest of the cars I got were either like Volkswagen buses or beat up old, cars. So those were two surprising that didn't really fall into those two categories.
and we have a question that just came in for you, Jeff. Out of the people that picked you up when you were hitchhiking, have you stayed in contact with any of them?
No, I haven't. I wish I had. There was the guy in the Ferrari I stayed in touch with for a while, and I don't know why, but we drifted apart, and I have no idea how to get in touch with him. And there was one young woman that I stayed in touch with a little while, but again, we just drifted apart, and so it goes.
Well, we have a question here that says, how do you balance your adventure with responsibility and service?
Uh, yeah, tough question.
I don't have easy questions here that came in.
Yeah. Well, like the first, really challenging one where I had to consider that because, when I was young and single, it was like, okay, what's my responsibility? My responsibility is to eventually graduate from college and then law school and so forth. But, after I was married and had kids, and I went off on my first Himalayan expedition, it was my wife that told me to do it. And she told me to go take a hike on the other side of the world because she could tell that I was just, life had closed in on me. I had too many responsibilities. My life was too scheduled. And she realized that adventuresome spirit needed to be nourished. So she said, go do that. And I did. And, we've, uh, we had traveled somewhat apart from each other before that. Like I was really into scuba diving for a while, and I would go on 1 week dive trips down in the Caribbean. But after that, it was like we really realized that we have a wonderful life together, and we also have wonderful lives apart. So she loves to go to England, and she would go to England about and Italy about every other year or so, and do her museum and art gallery and tea time. Uh, and I would go and do my mountain climbing and scuba diving and motorcycling things, and it worked for both of us and still does.
And here you are today having tea time for the fifth time.
Yes, and she permits me to do it.
She's like, see, you enjoyed tea.
Yeah.
It's a different type of tea that I serve. Um, and you mentioned the Caribbeans, and there was a question here: Himalaya or Caribbeans? Your favorite adventure, Jeff?
Well, Caribbean would be down around maybe number three
Oh,
as far as an area. My first and favorite is the Nepal Himalayas. My second is actually Pacific Islands, particularly Palau, which is an island nation, very small island nation in the Pacific, not too far from the Philippines. And three different times I've gone there and went scuba diving for 1 week, and then took a second week and solo sea kayaked from one island to another, camping out by myself um, on different islands that I would paddle to during the day. And those were just fantastic adventures. But being up in the Himalayas is number one.
well, I guess I got my answer, but I'm going to ask you this one: mountain trekking, scuba diving, or kayaking? What's your top pick? But you just said the hiking, so
Yeah, but I have to say, unfortunately, age and a hip replacement have caught up with me. So, in terms of high altitude trekking or mountaineering, that's probably in the rearview window. But I still kayak regularly, although I haven't been on a sea kayaking adventure for a number of years now too. But and scuba diving, I haven't done that either for quite a while. Both of my sons got certified, and I helped the dive instructor. with getting them certified, because I have advanced open water certification. That was really delightful. And I thought the three of us would go diving regularly. And on our first dive together after they were certified, the older boy started bleeding into his mask and he had a nosebleed, had a terrible time. So he said, okay, this isn't for me. The younger one and I went on another couple dives together, but um, now he's a busy young guy with a 4-year-old child, and so he's kind of where I was uh, back when my Alicia told me to go take a hike.
Now the son is being told go take a hike.
Yeah, so I need to tell him to go take a dive.
Go take a dive. And I think
Yeah.
we've never talked about the scuba diving in all the times I've had you on Tea Time, Jeff. I think this is the first time I'm hearing about the scuba diving.
Well, the only writing I did about it is in a book called Island Adventures,
Oh,
and it's a series of adventure stories and essays that I experienced, and what I got from experiencing in islands in the Caribbean and islands in the Pacific, and the Greek islands. And So in some of those stories involve scuba diving, but yeah, I've never written a book, or I can't even remember writing an article that was focused on scuba diving.
well, I'm going to get into the pickleball because everybody's waiting for the pickleball because Jeff is the one that opened my eyes to pickleball. Because when I first heard the word pickleball, I thought it was like somebody throwing a ball that looked like a pickle, but that's not what it is. Do you want to share a little bit about what pickleball is for the listeners that don't know what pickleball is? Because I know what it is now, but some of my listeners don't.
Yeah, in fact, I was just playing this morning.
Oh, look at that. Did you win?
Yeah, I think I played 6 games and I won 4 and lost 2. So,
Oh,
not bad, but not great. Um, Well, the first time I heard pickleball, I thought the same thing. I thought, okay, this has got to be some kind of really ridiculous game. But it's kind of a combination of tennis and badminton and ping pong, table tennis. It has elements of all three of those different games, and it's played with a paddle that's a little bit bigger than a ping pong or paddle, and it's played with a ball, which is kind of like a wiffle ball. And it's played on a court that is about half the size of a tennis court. So, and then the rules are somewhat similar to tennis, and the scoring is uh, actually more like badminton or volleyball. Because anyway, so excuse me. So read my pickleball book, and you'll learn how to play.
and you'll get to learn about it. Uh,
Yeah.
I was really interested because when I heard the word pickleball, I like me and Jeff had some really good laughs on the first show about the pickleball. So check that out on season 2. Like and that's what I like is I like the memories that we had together, Jeff. We got down some really funny trails and adventures ourselves, just having conversations. So.
Yes, we've been spilling tea along the trail for quite a few years now.
Yeah, it's been 5 years that we've been spilling tea, so it's been a while, right? We have our own adventures and that. We have a question that came in, Jeff, and it says, biggest life lesson you've learned from all of your travels.
Okay, so I have to reduce this to one of the 72 wisdoms. And in that book, 72 Wisdoms, there's only, I think, 3 that are my own. The rest of them all come from different sources and people much wiser than me. But one of them goes something like this. Live your life like it's a work of art and make it beautiful. And so that's that's what I would encourage people who are wisdom seekers, or just seekers, trying to live authentically, like we started this conversation. Think about your life like you're creating a beautiful work of art, as opposed to just drudgery that you're trying to get through, make that next paycheck, or fulfill that next task. And paychecks are needed, tasks need to be done, that's for sure. But if you're conscious about what you're doing and what it means that you're doing, even sort of mundane, ordinary tasks can take on real meaning. Okay, so like this morning, I filled the dishwasher and to wash dishes. Okay, how can that be meaningful? I mean, what a
Well,
drag.
the dishes are clean now.
Well, exactly. And I did something that benefits my wife and me. The kids are all grown up, but still, this was a task that I could pay attention to, look at each item I'm putting in the dishwasher, brings back memories. I mean, some of these glasses that I put in the dishwasher, we've had for 20 years. This coffee cup. This was my University of Chicago coffee cup. It was given to me because I served on the alumni board of governors for my alma mater. So yeah, I could have just kind of thrown the stuff in there and been pretty much unconscious about it, or I could approach it like the great Buddhist wisdom master Thich Nhat Hanh says, be conscious in everything you do. And so, and I violate that every day. I am definitely, not a perfect example of that by any means, but it is something I strive for, and I recommend other people do.
Well, in season one, the first time you were on Tea Time, you gave me three quotes, and I want to get those quotes out there. Number one is, "You have to get lost before you can be found," was the first quote you gave me the first time you were on. The next one was, belief divides us, value unites us." And I'm going to get you to talk about these quotes. And number three was, "Whether chasing angels or fleeing demons, go to the mountains." So tell me about these three quotes, Jeff.
Okay. Well, so um, the last one I'll start with. Whether chasing angels or fleeing demons, go to the mountains. Really was kind of a reflection of where I was when I first went to the mountains, because there aren't any in Indiana. um, was life, I felt like I was fleeing from demons every day, in the sense that I had so much to do, had so many responsibilities. I was the senior member of a small law firm, and also was involved in a business, and was serving on a bunch of corporate boards. And I had two young kids, that I was a very involved father, and life was just so scheduled. And so instead, I wanted to chase angels, which was, find a more meaningful way to live. And so I found that in the mountains.
Which one are you going for next? Number two or number one?
Um, so number number one was, you have to get lost before you can be found. That's right. Well, that's the title of my second book about Nepal. And it's the title of the book, and it's also the title of one chapter. And the adventure part of that is that I was on a mountain in the Nepal Himalayas by myself, because I got separated from my team, and the other guys that were climbing with me had a problem and went back down to base camp. And I thought, well, I'll just keep going. I can do this. this is not a real challenging mountain. And so I got to the top, and then fog rolled in, and I couldn't see much of anything. I could only see about 10 feet in front of me, and I couldn't find uh, the route that I had come up. And this was not a technical peak by any means. It was only 14,000 feet, which in Nepal is a baby mountain, and not technical. But so I I was lost, and I went through really an amazing experience to get back to our base camp, because I bushwhacked and slid down an ice chute, and had to rock climb down some kind of scary faces. But eventually I got back, and was reunited with the guys and the woman. There was a woman in our team too, and and I felt like not only had I found them, but I was found in the sense that it was a community. I was back with my community. By myself could be exciting, a cool adventure, dig it. But without a community, who are you really? And so there was just this very, wonderful kind of intense experience of how being by yourself can be exciting and adventurous, but also can be damn scary. And it got to be scary. And so being back in the warmth of my community, it just felt so good. So
Well,
anyway,
it is
that's what
scary
that was
being
about.
alone. Like being alone is nice sometimes, but then, it's nice to see that familiar face. Like I said before we started, right? It's nice to see familiar faces, have my community back and cheer me on and push me to encourage to. And Jeff, you've been a really big supporter of me over the years, and I want to thank you for that. Because you're part of my community.
Well, thank you, Liz, and I appreciate that, and I feel the same. It's mutual. Yeah.
So the second quote that you sent me was, "Belief divides us, value unites us."
Oh, yeah. Well, so that was the theme of a book I wrote about how polarized, in particular, the United States had become. And so, what I wanted to try to do in that book is to figure out, why are we divided, and what could unite us, and not on specific issues, but just on kind of a more psychological and sociological, philosophical, ethical sense. And so what I eventually figured out and tried to explain in that book is, we get divided over beliefs, and people get really upset when, I believe this and you ought to believe that. And I mean, you can see it, it's most obvious in religion, but it's true in politics as well. And so I did kind of analysis of how religions divide us, when they demand that you believe this, and if you don't believe it, you're a heretic. You should be burned at the stake, something like that. In politics, you're out. If you don't believe this, then you're out. You're not going to be in our party. We exclude you. And so what unites us is, most people share the same fundamental values. Like, we all care about our family and friends. We all want to be decent, compassionate people who, would help a stranger who needs help. These kind of basic values of kindness, compassion, loving, and anyway, so that's what I was arguing, is we need to focus on our values. And if we do that, we will find that we really are much more united than it seems like. But we have to also get rid of demanding that other people believe the same things that we believe.
Right? Like, let's care to disagree. I had this conversation last night with someone, like, where did we come to the part where back in the day, if we had an argument with our siblings or something, we had a good old fist fight and then we were having a beer 10 minutes later, right? It was like, let me get it all out. And hey, Richard, do you want a beer? Well, Richard's my dad's name. I'm using my dad as an example. My uncle and my dad would have an argument and they'd have a fist fight. And 10 minutes later, Richard, you want a beer? Like, you know what I mean? But today it's like, I'm going to block you. I'm going to delete you. I'm going to, put the walls up for the next 10 years. Where back in the day, we just got it out and then carried on. We cared to disagree. And some people got a couple punches in the nose and, but I don't know. It scares me. It really scares me on how divided we are. We talk about diversity a lot in today's society, but are we really understanding diversity and inclusion, right? Understanding that we can care to disagree and have that clean debate. We're not having clean debates. It's you're right, I'm wrong, and that's it in today's world. So.
Yeah, and the fact that now diversity, equity, and inclusion has become a dirty word, I think, is a really sad comment on the state of our body politic, because, those are good things. Experiencing diversity is a good thing. Equity. So we started the conversation with equity and authenticity. Fairness is a good thing. Inclusion is a good thing. Including people in your community. If somebody's really bad, or misbehaving, okay, yeah, exclude them. But for most people, in being included in a community is really valuable. It helps you, it helps the community. So, and you can see this so pointedly in the anti-immigration movement and attitude. Sure, every country needs to control its borders, no doubt about it. And if bad people are trying to get in, you don't want them. And you want people to come in legally, not illegally. Absolutely. No argument there. But the idea that immigration is bad, immigrants are bad people, dangerous, that is just it's just ridiculous, because in our two countries, well, we wouldn't be here, either you nor me, if they hadn't welcomed immigrants.
Right. And there's one bad seed in every pocket, but that doesn't mean the rest of the seeds are, a bad one. We're losing out on opportunity and connection globally because of this closed-mindedness, and the way that we're teaching. We're not teaching with heart anymore. We're teaching with power and control and egos, and it's really scary. We had a question that came in, and it says, what does culturally sensitive development mean, and why is it so important? I'm not sure what that means. So can you explain?
Yeah, so that comes from the Bassa Village Foundation, which I started and I'm still the president of. That's sort of like our theme, is we do culturally sensitive development. And so what I mean by that is the local culture in the Bassa area of Nepal is its own unique culture. And while the villagers asked for help to develop their infrastructure, we wanted to work with them in the most culturally sensitive way possible. So what that meant is, number one, we wouldn't do any development work except what they asked us for help with. So we wouldn't impose our ideas, our values on them. They would ask for help. If we agreed that we could help to do that, to build a school, to build an electrical system, a water system, a medical clinic, then we did it. But we did it in a way so that they owned it, they controlled it. So they have their own school board for the school. They have their own utility board for the water and electrical system. And they had to build all the structures. So the school, the water system, the electrical system, all that, they built with their own hands. So that's what I mean is, in a very practical sense, if you're doing development work, the initiative should come from the community itself, not from the outside. And the community itself needs to own it, run it. And what underdeveloped communities don't have is they don't have capital. So they don't have the money. For example, the electrical system. We had to buy these turbines and all the parts to create a hydroelectric system. Well, subsistence farmers, they don't have any money to buy those parts with. So our foundation bought the parts. We had a US and a Nepali engineer work together to come up with a plan. And then the plan was taken to the village. The villagers spent 2 days talking through how they were going to how they would execute the plan. And they figured out everything down to what children would carry food to the guys working on the actual construction. I mean, every little detail they worked out on their own. And then they built their hydroelectric system. And so, that's my view, is that's how all community development work should be done, whether it's in the inner city, whether it's on an Indian reservation or a remote village in a, quote, third world country.
Well, and that kind of goes into the question that came in, is what inspired the founding of the Bassa Village Foundation, and what has it accomplished so far, Jeff?
Well, so, I started going to Nepal in 1995, doing trekking and climbing expeditions. And each time I went, I would try to do some, kind of philanthropic project, whether it was just bringing a bunch of shoes or coats, or doing a fundraiser through my church to help support a local school, whatever. But so in 2006, I hired a different outfitter company than the one I'd been working with, to be our guides, our porters, our cook on a mountaineering expedition. And the company I connected with, the owner and everybody that worked for it, was from this little village called Bassa. And when you're on a mountaineering expedition, you get really close to the people you're trekking and climbing with. I mean, it's an intense experience. And I got very close to these people, and they were wonderful. I fell in love with them. Never been to their village, but at the end of the expedition, the owner of the company, whose name is Niru Rai, and our head guide, whose name was Ganesh Rai, because they're this tribal ethnic group, the Rai people, so all of their last name is Rai. They said, we have this little school in our village. It has 3 grades. We really want to add a 4th and a 5th grade. And for $5,000, we could buy all the materials we need to add the addition to the school, and the supplies, the benches for the kids to sit on. And we could pay 2 teachers' salaries for 3 years. All of that for $5,000. So I said, yes, of course I'll help. And what I wanted to do, though, was, rather than just give them $5,000, I wanted to create the synergy from other trekkers and climbers and start a relationship with this village. And so we did that. And then in 2008, I went to the village for the first time, and it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. The entire village was lined up, 300 people, with leis, flowered wreaths to put around our necks. And it was an amazing, wonderful experience. And so I went back 5 more times over the next few years. And anyway, so that's how it began.
Yeah, because you sent me that picture with the lace around your neck, and I never knew the story behind it. Now I know the story behind it.
Yeah. So, and that's how every time people from our foundation have come back, whether I'm involved or not, that's how they greet us. I
That's
mean, just think of that these people who are subsistence farmers, um, take the time to put those leis, one little flower at a time, and enough that they can, I mean, they'll stack up. I mean, they'll stack up so you can't see because,
they'll cover you right up in flowers.
yeah, they basically cover you in flowers. That's how they welcome you.
Well, it's nice, a nice gesture as well. You know, you feel welcome, you feel part of the community. It goes right back to the community again, right? Uh, you know,
Yeah.
I want to thank you for what you're doing with Bossa Village Foundation, and for anybody that wants to know more about that, check out Jeff. If you want to just give out a shout out for your website and stuff like that, where they can find all your books and all that good stuff.
Oh, yeah, thanks. So my full name is Jeffrey, which is what my mom called me when I was in trouble. So Jeffrey Rasley, Rasley, .com. That's my website, and it has information about the Bassa Foundation and my books. And I'm also in various social media platforms and have an author page on Amazon.com, so I can be found in any of those ways, or just Google my name, and I think the website will come up.
Or you could always check out all of his crazy tea times that he had with Miss Liz.
Absolutely, that would be the best way.
You know, it was really an adventure through the years with you, Jeff, because I got to see the change in you, you know, appearance and posture, stuff like that, different room settings and that as well. I think you've always been in the same room though.
Well, this is actually my older son's bedroom until he moved out. And Alicia and I had added an office over our garage. But after he moved out, I decided I would take over this space and make it my office, because in this window right off here to my right, I can look out and see the White River and trees, and it's a lovely view. Um, and Alicia took our other boy's bedroom and made it her office. So now we have this great office over the garage that's not being used, other than we throw junk in there. So now it's our storage room. But so that's where, when I get together with you, this is where I am, in this room.
Yeah. And look at that. You got to use the boys' rooms up. They're out of the house and mom and dad get to
That's
use the
right.
rooms.
Yeah, get out of here, kid. Give me that room back.
That's my room now.
Yeah, and don't try to come back.
So, Jeff, your final words for all the listeners today.
Well, I'll just repeat, live your life like you're making a beautiful work of art.
I like it. Let's just make art. We need more art in the world today. I really want to thank you, Jeff, for joining me again. It's always a pleasure to see your face and have my community come back and support Miss Liz time and time again. And Jeff, I'm going to check. You might be in the lead. I'm not sure. Maybe Lugman. We'll check it out and we'll see who's in the lead for tea time appearances. But Jeff and
Well,
Lugman are pretty close.
and if it's a tie, we'll have to have a coin flip for a tiebreaker.
All
Who
right.
gets to be number 6 first?
There we go. So I'm just going to do a closing summary of what we did today. As we wrap up today's tea time, I want to take a moment to thank Jeff Rasley for returning once again and sharing his light with all of us. 5 visits and still brewing strong. That says a lot about the authenticity, depth, and humanity he continues to bring to the space. Jeff's message reminds us that life is a continuous expedition, not just across mountains and countries, but through self awareness and service. His journey shows that giving isn't about grand gestures, but about compassion that endures. To everyone tuning in, thank you for sharing this cup of reflection with us. You can catch the replays of all Miss Liz's Tea Times on my platforms on YouTube, LinkedIn, X, Twitter, and Facebook. Until next time, keep planting those seeds of change, one story, one cup, and one act of kindness at a time. And I will see everybody at 7 p.m. with the second tea time of today.